hopefully 3 years from now, when stuff starts getting released again, hopefully everybody's learned their lesson, or at least enough people have learned their lesson where uh, we're seeing decent films out again. I mean, that's one of the things I've been noticing is I keep finding these little oddball movies that are made, for 30, 40 million, which is chump change nowadays. But back in the day, that was a pretty good movie. And there's decent little gems out there all over the place. It's just hard to find them.
Yeah, and I think that that's what most things should be.
Yeah.
Or these like little films that you can go watch because it's not hard. It's um like I don't know what Saw cost, but it wasn't a lot.
Hmm.
And as a horror film, that was a great idea. And largely they were in one room the entire thing. And you can still tell a story, you don't
Hmm.
have to um
Yeah, it's just like the one I just saw recently was Captive State, and they shot it on location in Chicago. And basically the setup is it's a alien invasion, and basically people have been walled off in all the cities. And
okay.
so Chicago, everyone who was in Chicago is stuck in Chicago, and they're just basically living this existence there, where some of them work for the invaders and other people are kind of doing their thing. But Chicago is kind of running down and looking deteriorate and everything like that. So it's a perfect background drop for this alien occupied Chicago. And so they didn't really have to do a lot in terms of setting things up, other than probably having lots of security for some of the areas where they're doing the shooting. So that they basically used the older parts of the city to create this aesthetic of, this is what happens after 10 years of alien occupation and nobody's really keeping things up.
Wow. Neat idea.
Yeah, and so they saved a lot of money on that because I starred John Goodman. I think he probably ate up most of the budget for his fee, but he did a great job in it. I mean, you can almost watch. You're almost there to watch him in the movie. But yeah, so
Okay.
there's lots of different ways they can uh, stretch their dollar, and and that's something Critical Drinker was talking about, the idea that part of the problem with these big budgets is they get into this mindset where, well, we'll just keep reshooting and reshooting and reshooting and redoing the CGI and redoing the CGI and redoing the CGI to the point where there's nothing real left in the scene, and everyone's like going, okay, uh, uh am I on acid? What's going on here? You know, and I think that's one of the advantages of a smaller budget. Is like you have to figure out, okay, what's important. What is it that we need to emphasize? If we need an effect, where do we need to put the bulk of our money into? We can't be spreading. We can't be doing everything in the movie at absolute top notch. So now that we've basically sunk all our money into, this is what the alien looks like, and we have to figure out how we fill in the next 60 minutes. I guess we're gonna have to do with story and acting.
Yeah, and if you're going to reshoot a scene over and over and over again dozens of times, you should at least make Shelley Duvall have a nervous breakdown. That's that's one of the messed up things I heard about that
Oh
film.
yeah.
I was like, dang, so she was really like just uptight at that point. um, Poor lady. Uh, yeah, so I think so. And no, people do great things when they have restrictions put on them.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of where that's you just kind of gave a hint out to the another problem with a lot of the writing nowadays is the multiverse, time travel, everything they're doing with it, because they're taking the okay, if you remove all constraints, it really
Yeah.
show okay, if you're a great writer, it gives you room to be a great writer. If you aren't that good of a writer, it will basically strip your clothes off and show you naked to the world. And that's really what we're seeing, is because these guys are out of ideas. So they sit there and say, "Oh, what we'll do is we'll have a thousand universes we can tap into." It's like, well, does anyone here have an imagination? Well, no, not really, but we'll try to do what we can. And you see, it's like, wow, you have a thousand universes at your disposal, and that's the best you can do. Wow. And so, yeah, that whole idea needs to just go away. I mean, at
We
least.
can only show you stories from the central finite curve.
Mhm.
Um, I well, like, the multiverse movie that I did see in theaters was Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And that was all right. I mean, like, but they were pretty creative with it.
Yeah, I mean,
They had a lot of fun with it.
yeah, well, they were telling a different kind of story there. Um, the multiverse in that story enhances the experience of what's going on. It's not a cheap trick where you're going, oh, okay, well, we kind of ran out of ideas with this part of it, so we're going to throw something in there as filler over here to, oh, look, we're going to have this same character talk to themselves from 5 different directions.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, and,
Oh my
and we
God.
passed the Bechdel test. Woohoo!
I, and I'm not saying that I'm a great. I don't know how to write a script. I don't. But I do know when things just are like, oh, and I think most people can at least come out with a feeling when they look at the film and go, that didn't do anything for me. That didn't. I don't feel satisfied by the last Doctor Strange or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, hopefully, and we have seen these smaller films, like you say, and I bet they make their money back easy because they
Well,
didn't spend a
sometimes they
lot.
do, and sometimes they don't. And that's the problem. When you're doing the little movies, it's hit and miss because you catch your audience or you don't.
Um, I wonder, like a movie like Primer,
Oh yeah,
because I think this is kind of what we're talking about here, where that was a very low budget film, and but there's definitely that's a complicated film. You actually have to bust out the whiteboard to figure out everything that happened in Primer. With it's a time travel film for anybody that hasn't seen it.
Oh, great.
But I don't know what they hit. But they figure it out in the first 10 minutes that their time.
Yeah.
But they but like I don't know what they spent on that, but it couldn't have been more than a couple $1 million.
Oh yeah, that one was.
There's no way.
Extraordinarily low budget. Yeah. Yeah.
But it was well shot. It was well acted. The story was interesting. You just had to pay attention, or you can't sleep on a film like that. But I bet it made its money back.
Oh, that one definitely did. Yeah.
There's enough nerds out there that want to watch a really hardcore science fiction film. I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything recently. There's nothing. Yeah. I don't get excited. I listen to places like Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker and stuff like that. But even then, they're just talking about like, yep, no, nothing's good. So go away, and we'll tell you.
And for the most part, I agree with their takes on things because, I've reached a point where I hate. We used to go. We probably went to the movies almost every weekend, and so I see all these movies from the '90s. I mean, these ones barely people know anything about. Oh, I saw that in the theater. I saw that in the theater. I saw that in the theater. And even the ones that were, not particularly memorable were still enjoyable while you were there. And there's
Hmm.
a lot of things come out now where you're just like, I'm not enjoying this. This is a slog to get through, and you get to the point where it's like, it's not worth taking the risk to go out and watch a movie because time is the one thing you can't get back, and it's like, I'd much be rather doing something else than watching this movie, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm at the point now where I'm like, where I would walk out of a theater now
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like, no, no, I don't care about the money now. I'll just take my Coke and popcorn and eat it out in the park.
Mm-hmm.
um, but yeah, but you're right. When here we go, put up with a little bit more, but we didn't. What movies came out in 1993? I don't know, but I bet you they're better than most of the movies we see today. I don't actually like. I think what Pulp Fiction might have came out
That's about right.
93 or 94,
That's about right.
something
Yeah.
like that. Um, yeah, that's when Tarantino was hitting the scene, and Robert Rodriguez, and that's where. So there were some pretty cool things back then. Um, yeah, but I don't know of anything like there's nothing coming up that I'm just like, ooh, that.
The
I
only
have to
thing
see
I'm
that.
looking forward to right now, but I'm apprehensive, Napoleon. Stars Joaquin Phoenix. I forgot who the director is. Ridley Scott. That's coming out.
That's interesting.
That's coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out in November. And right now, I'm kind of like a Joaquin fanboy because everything I've seen him in so far, I go, okay, this guy, because I didn't realize how good an actor he was. And then I started seeing some of his stuff. I'm like, oh boy, there's a whole bunch of movies I probably should have been watching because I did not realize that he was a good actor. And
Freaking Joker.
yes, that's what, because I watched, yeah, so I watched that and I'm like going, holy crap! And then I ended up watching his Johnny Cash biopic, and he did really well in that as well.
Cool.
And then so yeah, I've been seeing. Then I saw him in Her. He was fantastic in
Yeah.
that. And so like, okay, he's playing Napoleon, and that's one of my. His Napoleon's very historically interesting to me. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with that. I'm always terrified because Alexander.
Put a chick in there, make him gay.
It's like, how can you screw up Alexander? And I'm like, well, I guess you can screw up anything. So I'm apprehensive after that. But I mean, I think Napoleon's going to be decent, just from the few scenes I've seen. So
you showed me the trailer, and I was like, that's kind of cool. The costuming is really amazing. The cinematography looks cool, but I don't know. Yeah, I hope, like you, that turns out good.
yeah, that one I'll see in the theater. I'll plunk down money to see that because
but there's some things that I've been told are good that I have, like I've never seen Dunkirk, and
you don't need to. It's not okay.
oh
Yeah, I watched it and I said, wow, this is really nice. They did a pretty good job here. It looks realistic, and boy, it needs kind of a story to go with it.
so it just doesn't
I know
it doesn't stick.
I mean, cinematography wise, great movie. Telling you the history of what happened, yeah, really good movie. But for some reason, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if it's the Anglophobe in me or what, but it's just like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not. it's not
I
doing
just can't get
anything.
around these British people.
Yeah.
These British, I don't care. I don't,
Yeah. But yeah, so
um,
and yeah, like I said, as a historical movie, I recommend it. But as something you sit down and enjoy, it just yeah, I literally, I mean, there's a lot of war movies I'll rewatch. And that's one I could probably go the rest of my life never seeing again. I mean, I'm glad
um,
I saw it, but yeah, I could easily never watch it again and be fine.
do you think that certain people get dispensation, or do you think that there was, I don't know, maybe it was a year ago, Tarantino was on Joe Rogan. I don't know if you saw any of that. Um, but there was this point where Rogan's like, how do you get Hollywood to make the kind of films you make? Because this is not acceptable in the zeitgeist right now. And Tarantino goes, I don't ask people, I just make it. And they're like, do you want a Tarantino movie or do you not? And
Yeah,
and they do. They want one
yeah.
because
And
you
there's,
know,
I don't think there's anyone up and coming behind him. No one that I know of.
yeah, but he still make the what was the last one he made? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, very good.
And he's still making the exact same film he was making in the early 90s.
Yep.
He's never changed. I'm not to say he's boring.
No.
I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It is clearly a Tarantino film you are watching
Yeah.
when you're watching it. Um, and like, why are people afraid to do something like that? Because he can.
Yeah.
They're not going to tell him no.
Well, he's essentially in this world of uh he's a known commodity. He's always delivered. So he can get away with it. Whereas anybody else comes up and says, "Hey, I got this great movie." Like, oh no, no. All our budget's heading over to this superhero movie. So sorry, we don't have anything put on this little indie movie you want to put on. But yeah, Tarantino's bank, so he can get away with it. But I said I can't think of anyone coming up behind him that's a name. I mean,
Yeah, because like Nolan's gone in a weird direction. He would have been maybe somebody, but like the last thing I watched from Christopher Nolan is like I don't get it. I can't remember the name. Tenet. I hated Tenet.
hmm,
Um,
I did not.
Mostly for his sound design. And I'm not kidding. Did you watch Tenet?
No, I've not.
Okay,
I've been getting
so
recommendations to watch it, but I get it's not high on my list yet.
I was like, I was watching this film, and me and my wife are losing our minds because of the way the music comes on really hard in the middle of where actors are talking. So you can't hear that. I thought I had a bad copy. And it was like, no, he purposefully would drown out dialogue that you assumed was important dialogue between characters. He would drown it out with music or special effects sound or whatever. And it was so you'd be like listening to these characters talk, and suddenly the music goes dun dun dun. So you had to turn everything down, and then you had to turn things back. You actually had to have the remote with you the entire film to try and just regulate the sound, and it was awful.
Hmm.
And I don't know why he did it that way, and I hated it.
Well, I wonder if
And
it's
it was
just I wonder if it's the same thing that happened in the theater. Okay, because one of the things I've been running into, it's funny because I saw okay, we're at the point where we're watching everything with subtitles on now,
I
captions,
understand.
and so my wife's getting mad, going, "Oh, I must be going deaf or something," and blah blah blah, I saw an article saying, "Am I going deaf? I can't hear anything in any of the movies anymore." And they explained how that the track system they're using for the theaters is specifically set up for the way the speakers are set up in there. And they've decided to audio track the movies the exact same way are in the theater. So unless you have a home theater system that has the same speaker setup as a theater, you're basically going to have a lot of points where the actors sound muffled because it would have been picked up different, but the way they have the theater system.
I would love to think that was true, John, except for in Nolan's case, this is an artistic choice. He's doing this on purpose. He's like, oh yeah, I did that on purpose so that I drown out the actors at certain points and everything to add to the mystery. Or I was like, I hate you a lot now.
Okay,
And
well, never mind. I tried to help him.
yeah, you tried to, but no. That's why I said he's gone in this weird direction with sound design. So no, there's no up and coming Tarantino to save any part of cinema that I can think of.
So in the comment section below, are there any up and coming directors that we can be looking forward to after Tarantino? Will Hollywood learn that it needs to do more small budget movies in order to be successful so we can get the variety back that we once had? Can you think of possible sources around the world that might be able to fill in for Hollywood if they don't pull out of this? Please comment below. Please hit the like button. If the YouTube algorithm has brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, check out my other titles. We get into a lot of different stuff. Consider subscribing. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, please share it with them. Thank you for spending time with us this evening.